Why did North Melbourne draft Hugo Mikunda? But first, the girls are in the granny.
And Stevens lined him up too. Let there be no mistake about that. Stevens went at him at 100 miles an hour. He get another go. And he grabs him. He's grabbed. Play on for holding the man.
Welcome back to Further North, everybody. Now, I'm going to address the elephant in the room straight from the top. For everyone watching on YouTube, and please subscribe if you're on YouTube and you have not, it helps support the channel. I am tired. I had my Christmas party last night. My voice is actually doing a little bit better than when we first started talking, Giles. This is very interesting. Oh, hi, Giles here. I'm a bit croaky. I'm a bit yawny. My eyes are a bit fried. There was karaoke. We went to Moondog Wild West, and I was riding the mechanical bull all night and dominating at pool. So that was my night. I might yawn a little bit. My eyes are a bit glazed, and my voice is a bit croaky. But that's why we have Joel here to carry the load while I'm down. Joel, this is your pod today, mate.
Hey, how are we going, Josh? Yeah, it's good to be back on. It's starting to get to, I guess, the quiet period before the real, comeback in February and the practice sims start happening and all the club stuff starts happening. So it's good to, I guess, be back on at this stage. And obviously the AFLW girls in a real tough arm wrestle of a game. Was actually a bit worried for a bit, 3/4 time being a goal down to come back and win that and send us into a granny for the third year in a row, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was a lot of sports to keep track of last night for me at this at the Christmas party because, at the table we're sitting there and I'm keeping track of the Ashes, I'm keeping track of the W. We're driving in the car to the event, and I'm trying to get refresh updates all the time. And I see the girls are down, and I was like, I always thought they would win. I'm like, we know the quality will shine through, but I was nervous. And then, I mean, the Ashes made it. I don't know how big a cricket fan you are, John, but like it's what a 2 days of cricket. Like this is my day off. Sunday, Mondays are my day off. I was so excited to lay on the couch today, a rainy day outside, and watch the Ashes. And I'm pissed. Don't get me wrong. That was the game that England had to win because our bowlers are out, but they didn't, and they're rubbish. Baz bowl, it's Trav bowl.
Oh, mate, it was fantastic. I was at the game of the W, and one of my mates was there as well, and I just sent her a little message, and then she's like, oh, there's been no goals scored for a while. My friends are all watching their cricket. I'm like, oh, it's been trash because I just seen they were 1 for 50 at that stage. And I'm just feeling sour about how poor we batted, and they're going to, put up a big total. And she's like, oh, I should probably flick it on again. And it was 5 for 90. And I'm like,
yeah, because when I was at the barbershop, I finished at 3 on Saturday and it was 1 for 50-ish. And then we had to go get ready. That's why I unfortunately couldn't make the W prelim. And, we had to go and do all the activities I had to do when axe throwing as well. It was crazy. What a fun time we had. Fun. And by the time we got to the axe throwing in the city, there was about 5 wickets had been taken. I didn't know what was going on. So, look, a crazy day of cricket, a crazy day of AFLW as well. We're going to kick off with the W chat here. Then we're going to talk about Hugo Mikunda as well, one of the players we took later in the draft. We'll get your thoughts on the pick of Threadgold. We talked about it a little bit, but obviously I was lucky enough to be able to interview him. And if you haven't listened to that interview, it's out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple now. Fantastic stuff. It got so much praise from the North community. So thank you so much for that if you have listened. If not, please go and listen to that. It's one of my favorite. He's literally a shin boner from day one, and you'll understand why if you watch the video. And then we're going to talk about some list depth and things like that. We finalized our list now, so I think that's something important to go through. So we're going to get to all that. But W first, Joel, the biggest test of the year for the girls. Now, I got home later after the Christmas party. I was keeping track of it on my phone, got home and watched as much of the game as I possibly could. So look, I was still nervous on my phone looking at that score change and the little AFL app refresh. This is our biggest test of the year, but once again, the girls pulled through.
I mean, it's you always get that fear when you've been winning so many that the loss is bound to be around the corner, because at some point there will be a loss, obviously. Melbourne came out with a really good game plan. They worked exceptionally hard. They were doing a lot of things really, really well. It just felt like every kick was, every dump kick they did forward would land on one of their chests. Every, one we did would just bobble around and we wouldn't be able to get it cleanly. Melbourne was working really, really hard, and North was just plugging away. There was a couple of times where Melbourne got on top and North was sort of able to wrestle and stop it from blowing out. The one thing that I would always say with this North Girls side, which is such a strength of theirs, which is also a tiny bit underrated, is we don't just do it better, we do it longer. Like the girls, the longer the game goes on, they're not stopping what they're doing. They've really fit, the coaching staff and the team has got themselves into such a good position of fitness that, that fourth quarter rolled around, they're one goal up, and then we dominated the last quarter, really. The last quarter was our quarter. We were really pressing hard, and Melbourne was the one that were out of tickets at that point. And that's something that we've seen fairly regularly with this list, the, strength of ability to, persevere over all 4 quarters. And that's what won us the game in the end, was that, it was the 4-quarter effort that won the game for us. And Melbourne would probably be looking back at that fourth quarter and, going, okay, we need to improve our fitness to get to that level. So really, big praise to the North Girls. I think it was a fantastic effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw that against the Bombers as well. I know we turned it around a little bit quicker, but, we were down. We didn't score a goal, I don't think, in that first quarter from memory.
Quarter, yeah.
And that 4-quarter performance, we were better over the 4 quarters, and that's really what football is all about. I mean, holding the D's scoreless in the last, and then piling on 2 or 3 goals. I think it was a couple of goals and a bunch of points.
Yeah.
A lot of points in this game, but we did what we needed to do. Big players stepped up in big moments, but I know what you mean. Like the first quarter, Melbourne were going for it, and you saw that against Hawthorn in the first final as well. Early on, we're getting battered. If we can stay with them, stay in the game and ride it out over 4 quarters, we are going to be the better team. And we've done that every finals game so far when you are playing much better opposition. So there's a lot of things to talk about in this game. I mean, Bogue has scored 2 goals in that first quarter of our 3 to keep us in the game. And then I think she got one. She was the first of the last quarter,
She was the one who put us in front. Yeah, she was the one who put us in front in the fourth with a really classy goal, just birding off her opponent and running straight through.
Yeah,
so
she had a couple of moments where she threatened to break the game open. There was one where she burst through a pack and burned him on pace, but then I think someone held her arm and grabbed her down.
Oh, it was a great tackle.
Yeah, to hold on. But geez, the turn of pace she had to get away from that initial player then before getting grabbed, that was unbelievable stuff. So look, and we'll talk more about her performance, but I think her 2 goals in the first quarter was so crucial to keep us in it, to keep that belief alive. And then that one in the last quarter to put us up, and then Garner kicking one out of a pack, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, beautiful by Jesse. Just like a quick hand to foot, and that was the sealer for us at the end. But
that's right. Huge goals in big moments. So I think Blaheen the Dream's game was fantastic, as was Jasmine Garner's, and we'll get into the stats. But, the middle 2 quarters it was a bit of grit and grind. We were slowly chipping away. I mean, to be fair, we didn't score heaps through that middle part of the game as well. It was, first quarter and last quarter was most of our scoring. Halftime, I don't think we scored, did we, in the third quarter, I believe. So, yeah, we didn't.
We didn't, but
crazy
we had
stuff.
Our opportunities there, but it was just like that, like, it reminded me of like real finals footy that you sometimes watch in even AFL level. People sort of will put down the no scoring to being a W thing, but it was both sides. The pressure around the ball was really, really high. The opportunities were really limited because of how hard it was how hot it was in the kitchen. And it was sort of like at that stage of the game for me watching, like, is Melbourne going to get that game-breaking goal to put them up, or are we going to get that goal to put us up and give us an advantage into the fourth? And it was, for me, I love that kind of footy. Like, it's not the flashy high-scoring stuff, but it's the grit and determination to, like, who can bite their mouth guard harder and go in, essentially, for me. And I think that's what it was for me when I was watching that at the game.
Oh, 100%, 100%. How was the atmosphere at the game? Tell me about being in the ground. Do we know what the crowd was? Looked pretty full. There was some seats around, but pretty full.
7,500, I think it was, is what they put up. It was, the atmosphere was really, really good. Like, I was sat near, like, where the cheer squad was, and saw, Jen Watt and Sonia Hood, they were there, and a couple of the AFL boys as well were near me as well, and Tika was with them as well now. So, Bryn was still there. I know it's a bit too soon for you, Josh, but
just let me grieve, man. Let me grieve.
But they were there, and it was good to have a little watch there. It was just like, it was the atmosphere was like really tense for a lot of it. Like, obviously, any fan base thinks the umpiring's doing the worst by them. So we were a bit frustrated, but when they started kicking, when those last 2 goals went, the crowd really, really lifted, and it was a good time, and it was a great watch at that point. I mean, it was a great watch the whole game, but to sort of see the shackles undone and to get a bit of room to breathe, the North fans really started lifting at that point.
Yeah, for sure. And first quarter, last quarter felt a bit more free-flowing scoring-wise. And then, like a lot of games, men's and women's, those middle parts of the game can be can feel like more of a slog as well. That's when you learn a little bit from the first quarter and you apply it through the middle of the game. And then depending on the balance of the game in the last, that's when things can open up for one team or another. So look, like we've done for nearly 2 years straight now, we've won the game again, which was fantastic. And it's good to be tested as well. I'm sort of glad we won this one in a close one. So there's no sort of, arrogance about how good these guys are. Now they can go back, train, know that they're not invincible, even though technically they kind of are, but they can be got, and that we can. Demons came out and really shook us, right? So it's good to have that little reminder that, you aren't invincible, and let's make sure we're fully on, because we're coming up against Brisbane there's a lot of Warriors Cavaliers about this rivalry now, because it's the 3 years in a row of that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like if we win this one, obviously we'll be 2-1 up on them, and it'll be nice to have that. I mean, without obviously getting to the game, we deserve it at this point. Like you've had the perfect season. It would actually be I'd be extremely disappointed if we lost this game, just because it's the North. That's the closest the side has been to us, and outside of that, no one's come within cooey of us. It's been ridiculous. It'd be a shame to lose the last game of the year, but I think the girls are well and truly good enough to, win that and do it well on the weekend coming. So, yeah, let's watch this game and see how we go.
Some of the individual performances as well. I'll just read out some stats here. I mean, Jasmine Garner, 32 touches, 1 goal, 8 tackles, 7 clearances. It's between her and Blaheen for player of the game. I mean, Garner, like the star she is through the whole game, was doing what she did. But, Bogue, I think, stood up in crazy moments, even though Garner did kick that sealer. So look, realistically,
as well, so.
Garner's probably the best on ground, with Blaheen next. Even though Blaheen is my favorite this year, I think. But look, fantastic performances. Eilish Sheeran was really good. Eilish, I never remember exactly which one Tess told me it was. Eilish. I think it's Eilish.
Eilish.
Sorry, Miss Sheeran, if you're listening. But 18 touches, 1 goal, 2, but 7 tackles again. Tackle pressure was on, 5 clearances, playing more around the midfield as well. Another really, really good contributor. Ash Riddell, maybe a slightly quieter performance. I mean, still 24 touches, but I think around the ground still, did really, really well. Still kicked a goal. But yeah, slightly less from Ash Riddell. Hopefully let Jazzy Garner do what she did so she can come and be best on in the granny.
And Jazzy in that last quarter, just for a thing, was just absolutely brilliant. Like when the game needed to be won, Jazzy just went to another level that no one went near. Like she was like that last quarter, she was the best on, and she really turned a lot of that match just with her ability to win the ball in the center and her ability to get clearances. She was really, really brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean, what else do you really expect at this point from Jasmine Garner? So, it sort of is what it is, mate. She, like I've said this on the pod a couple of times, a little bit of LeBron syndrome about Jasmine Garner putting up those numbers. We're just sort of like,
another week.
It's just another week on the footy field, isn't it? So, yeah, look, lots of good contributors here. I think the backline held up really well as well. Our defensive ability. They held up well late, I would say. Early on, there was a little bit of it felt a little bit lackadaisical almost, where some of the defenders were just slightly trailing behind the forwards. Because like you said before, it felt like the Ds could sort of clear the ball out of a pack, dump kick it forward, and it just seemed to fall in the right spot for one of the Demons players to take a few steps forward and just mark that, 30, 35 from goal. But still, regardless, our defenders need to be playing tighter, to their opponent. So I don't think the defense started very well. I think there was a lot of forward pressure. I think the Ds kicked the first. Was it the first 2 or 3? It was one or the other.
The first 3 they got.
First 3. And I don't think the defense was great in that first quarter, but as the game went on, they grew into the game. And don't get me wrong, they still stopped so many goals. When I'm saying they weren't good for our standards, I don't think they were at the normal standard, but they still held up well enough clearly. And as the game grew on, I thought they were fantastic. Obviously, a side as good as the D's, who I believe were second on the ladder to us, not letting them score in the last quarter of a prelim, credit to the defense for that.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, like, I would actually say the area where they won the game, or they were winning their game, was in the key posts. Like Randall, Sheila, and King all exceptionally well held. They didn't really have any impact on the game, in my opinion, and the Melbourne defenders were really influential at that time. It did help that Melbourne was getting extra numbers back, but that's all still part of the system. I think most of our goals probably came from, either shallow entries or, crumbing goals was my feel.
Yeah.
And repeat pressure. And Melbourne's forwards, I thought, were looking a bit better than ours. Like Taylor Harris kicked a really lovely goal from out near the boundary, and they just looked a bit more in the key post. They actually looked a bit more dominant. I don't know who their Melbourne ruckman is, but I thought she was did a bit of a number on us as well. She was really, really strong in that game. But then it was around the field stuff and around the ball stuff that I think we're winning. And when we started getting top of clearances, that's when the game turned in the last quarter.
Yeah, fair. Look, on to the granny now, mate. So I'm excited. I don't know exactly when tickets come out. I believe it might be Monday.
I believe.
Yeah. So, I've got the day off, so I'll be buying my tickets, and we'll see if we can get a big crew down there. I mean, look, grand final sold out last year. You would expect the same again this year. Yeah. I believe it'll be 7:30 Saturday night on that primetime spot at Icon Park. So get around your phones and on your computers and all that sort of stuff tomorrow. Get your tickets. North's going to dominate this crowd, obviously, playing an interstate team again. But let's all get there in full force. Kanga, all that sort of stuff. And make sure you sound like me when you come out of that game, which would be very, very good. Look, let's get on to the draft. So draft aftermath. This is your Christmas, Joel. We know that. Now we're getting to your New Year's Day, because we know what we've got for Chrissy now. It's a new year. We've got new stuff. It's time to have fun with these new things. Talk to me about these draft picks we've got. We've obviously talked a lot about Doveston. We might go straight to your thoughts on Threadgold, I reckon, and then we can talk a little bit about Mikunda, because Doveston has been covered in previous pods by us. Yeah. We obviously are all pretty stoked about that. I think we can both agree, and lots of North fans, it's probably the exact player we needed out of this draft, especially with Threadgold coming. So, look, you did get to listen to the Threadgold interview, so thank you for that. What did you make of that, just from your opinion? And give me your thoughts on Threadgold as a player and taking him at pick 26.
He seems like an absolute ripper fella. Like, when I heard the interview with him, I think it was just absolutely. He just seems so down to earth, such a good guy, and like he's got like a really good energy about him, where he wants to. It's very infectious, and he wants to obviously go out there and learn. And he's fairly humble by the sound of it, as well as a person. As far as on-field stuff, it's nearly the perfect draft for me, those first two picks. Like Doveston, obviously we know who he is and what he does, but Threadgold is going to be, key position size, can blanket someone one-on-one. If you watch his highlights, his hands are just absolute vice grips. And he's got such a strong leap on him, and he can get his hand up really high to spoil. He just has so much like of those Harris Andrew types for me, where he's got that ability to come across, intercept, and punch. I rate him really, really highly. I was really stoked when he got to us. Obviously, when we talked about the pod last time, I'm like, he'll be out. Like, I'll be shocked if we didn't take him. We were very linked to him.
It made too much sense.
It made too much sense, and he's like, just really matches into our lineup exceptionally well. And then for the last one, Hugo Mikunda, I did tell you that Brady will want to take a 180 centimetre or the half forward, which we've gone for. But the thing that I've gone back and looked at a fair bit of stuff with Mikunda, with Hugo Mikunda. It seems like in his juniors, he played a lot across that half-back line, used his pace a lot, can defend, and just a really defensive-minded player, which is a real good win for us. Apparently 17 of the clubs interviewed him. The only club that didn't was Brisbane. But, they've got a plethora of players of that size and position. So, I think Ludovic was obviously available at that stage. Every other club passed him at that stage, and it sort of leaves me thinking, why at that point? Like, there's something that they're seeing, obviously, that they're unhappy with. There's a few, like, obviously, Ollie Greaves, who was extremely highly touted, didn't go to the rookie, and Noah Hibbins-Hargrave, who I was thinking would be a chance to slide to us, ended up going off the board altogether, which was yet again very fascinating to see. But no, this Mikunda guy, I've watched his highlights, I've watched his things. Well, obviously, always happy to get someone that's going to engage and be a hard worker, and I think he's going to do all the above. And let's give him a real opportunity to develop under the radar, hopefully, and come out and let's be like, what a great draft steal that was, hopefully, in a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this Mikunda pick. I would have liked Ludovic, saying that on the Instagram story at the time, obviously. But, like you, thinking about it a little bit more, obviously the fan reaction straight away was, 180 centimetre midfielder, of course, Brady Rawlings. I get it. It is a bit of a running joke at this point, and it is what it is. But I don't think it's really like that. I think the difference with him is there's a lot of pace about his game as well. He's much more of an outside player. So I don't know if that exactly counts. I think it's probably more fair to say it's more of like a 180 centimetre outside winger or something like that. A little bit more than he's nothing like Will Phillips, except for his height. No. There's nothing like that. He's quick, ball use, and pace on the outside. And that's why I actually really like the pick. I mean, I think we need more depth in that position. Players on the outside. You've got Kirch, who I think about can run past and tear the game open a little bit. But outside of that, pure pace around the midfield, even off the half back line, realistically, I don't think we've got outside of McKercher. So, he is touted as a half forward and can be that link-up player like potentially a Spargo. But I don't know. You know more about him than me, but my gut tells me I think a winger is probably what we see him as and where we might be trialing him because, Stevens, I like what he did last year and I think he should be in the team. Simpkin performed really, really well out there. We've rotated Tom Powell. The Dersma question marks. Does he stay out there? Does a McKercher or Foss go to the wing? There's all these options. Apart from Stevens, none of those are wingers. None of those are actual stereotypical wingers. Mikunda feels like if he gets the ball on the outside of a pack and can use his first 2 or 3 steps, he will get us away from danger and be able to penetrate with his kick. And playing that half forward role a lot, being able to link up with forwards suggests that he's got a pretty good, accurate boot on him, even if it's not necessarily a booming kick. He's like Dylan Stevens. When he kicks the ball, I feel like he's going to hit the target most of the time because he's quite good by foot. So I don't mind the pick. I think, we always have key position players in our head, and we're going to go through some key position depth to maybe suggest why we went to a Mikunda soon. But I actually think it's a pretty smart pick, and I don't really care what exactly we do at that pick so low, especially when we've already drafted Doveston and Threadgold, which if you're not stoked by those 2 picks as a North fan, I'm a bit confused, to be honest, because it arguably feels our 2 biggest list holes. So look, do you see that? Do you agree with that opinion that I think they might be looking for him to be more of an outside winger type of player or an outside player between the arcs?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, he can play. I mean, it might be the versatility as well because, as I said, all of his junior career pretty much has been across halfback from my understanding. He had a very injury-interrupted couple of years apparently as well, soft tissue for a few of it. But then when he's gotten his body right and been able to go, he's obviously got a lot of talent. I think he was best on for Vic against South Australia. We got pounded in that game, but he was one of the best ones in that one. It's a good game worth watching as well to sort of see the skill set that he does bring. If you want to go back and watch that for anyone who does. So there is value for him. He's not, he wasn't obviously a key position stock, but there's assets to work with. And, potentially a bit of untapped potential because of the year. We need pace. He's very defensive. He can be very defensive minded, which is definitely something we need. So Absolutely. Let's see how we go with this pick. And it's a swing at the, you take swings at some of these later picks, I think, other than just you saw a lot of clubs sort of taking people that you sort of oh, interesting, look, what's this selection about? And I think it was similar for us. You sort of first look at it and sort of oh, that's an interesting pick. But, you get a bit of, we'll need midfield talent in the VFL for next year because currently, with Will Phillips out,
there's
we haven't
not
really
much depth,
him.
Mate. Jack Watkins on Port's list as well. I know he left before, but these midfield, there's a lot of rotation through our midfield at VFL level. And apart from Urquhart, unless a Powell or someone like that doesn't get into that midfield mix for some reason next year, and not naming Tom Powell for any reason. I know everyone thinks we've got beef.
Wow.
But wow, I'm awful. But like, I'm trying to think like those, who are those in the midfield? Foss isn't,
No.
Foss is up there. McCurch is a different type of player. Powell's a midfielder, which I think is like, he's good enough to be there, but maybe we're putting him around in different spots. Don't laugh at me, Joel. You know I'm true. I'm right here. You know it's true. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. He's playing on a wing and a half back and a half forward. He's not getting into the midfield. And when he went into that midfield, there wasn't much production from him in there. So, on paper, we'll squeeze him in because he's a good player and he should be in there. But I think, if we were just naming the exact types of players you want in positions, he's someone that might have to make sure he's having a fantastic preseason to be in there. My main point here is we need midfield depth in our twos. The other important thing, and I like what you said about Brady Rawlings taking a swing, because what you're telling me is Brady Rawlings is playing baseball, but I think Brady Rawlings is even playing baseball better than England is, to be fair. It's Brady ball, man. That's what he's doing. One of the things that the North fans picked up in Hugo's little video they put out on social saying, I'm stoked to be here, guys. He was wearing like a 2017 North Melbourne.
The Canterbury.
Guernsey. That's right. And so I thought, and the people wanted to know. So I've done some research here. I messaged him and I said, welcome to North, Hugo. Excited to see you on the park. But first, I have one question. Where did you get that 2017 North jersey in your video you posted? He goes, thank you so much. Appreciate the love and support. One of my mates just showed up with it and I put it straight on. So maybe not quite as groundbreaking as I thought there. I thought that he'd be like, I've been a North fan for life. Jack Zeeble 2017 was my favorite player. But no, apparently his mate had one of them. So that is where the jersey comes from. But a deep pull, and North fans, mate, we're sharp. That's the first thing I saw when I looked at that video.
Same,
I was
actually. I genuinely saw that.
Where is that jersey from? So anyway, welcome Hugo to the club. And I think try not to be too judgmental on this pick. Just because he's a 180 centimeter midfielder doesn't mean he doesn't have some attributes which I think we lack in the team. So, hey, it is what it is at this point. Any other thoughts from the draft for North, Joel, from you? I mean, sum this thing up for us, mate. You said you're stoked with the overall draft. Could we have done much better for you?
I mean, like, if we had have taken Ladd, I probably would have been happy at that point as well. But, the first two really, like, obviously Doveston is just absolutely a position of need. We've known we need this for a long time, and it's good to have that. Obviously Threadgold as well was a pretty clear choice for me. Athletic, rangy, long. I think he's just got so many great assets for AFL level. And then, Mikunda is a bit of a swing. Like, I mean, I'm not, like, people get a bit more emotional and think it ruins the draft by the last pick B and that. And I'm like, no.
I saw some of those comments, mate. And look, we know that they're just trolling on the internet, and it's not, that's not a real reflection of North fans' opinions. If I saw a comment of someone saying this undoes everything that Brady Rawlings has done in this draft, and I'm just like, and obviously that, don't react to those comments, guys. They're just saying that stuff to get reactions. That obviously is not true. So, but that stuff is wild that people could even sleep at night writing that. That's wild.
Yeah, no, I think it's mostly just trolling at that point. Like, it's like, one pick, and may I add, like, no one's actually set foot on a park yet, on an AFL park. Let's see what they do at AFL level. I mean, I'm very happy with the talent we've brought in, but, everyone talks about winners, losers, yada, yada in this draft. But the truth be told, until they set foot on that field, you just don't know what they're going to be. Mikunda could be we could be looking back in, 15 years and, he's a multiple premiership player, extremely important in our list build, and look at him as the player that's helped turn it. Yeah, all Australian winger. Or you could, and be looking at, some of the early picks is like, what were we thinking? But you never know.
Doveston might be scared in front of goal. Who knows? Maybe have
you never know these
Thomas Yips. But hey, if he's half the player Lindsay was, I'm still okay like that. Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favourites, Lindsay.
Oh, how good was he? So
absolute star.
No, exciting. We were talking before as well about the array of personalities we've drafted in this draft as well, like how different Threadgold is to Doveston, just personality-wise. I'm so interested to see, like, and maybe I'm overreacting. My boober brain is, really thinking about this, but we don't have a player like Lockie Doveston at the club, attitude and personality-wise. So I wonder how it's all going to go. Like, I wonder if some of the boys there, especially some of the older guys, are looking at the young fella be as
older guys on
confident.
Our list.
Well, Aiden Core, sitting there going, God, this guy's going to be hanging around here now, just like chirping and that sort of stuff. I wonder how it would be. But, to counteract my own point here, I do think, and I'm sure we all agree on this, like a player like that with a bit of swagger is what we need. There's a fine line to it, I think, and especially depending on generation. I think, as we talked about, younger generations really love what Ginnivan does. And, myself and yourself, we talked before we started this pod about, I don't think that when I was in high school 15 years ago, we really liked those sort of cocky, arrogant players, and definitely generations before that didn't. So it's new, but the thing he can bring as well as goals and just hopefully premierships is some eyes on North Melbourne. And I think that is, especially these days, just as valuable. I made a comparison before of like Fremantle, good team, but no one really cares because no one really knows any of their players. As much as they're good, they're not they're not face of the league type guys. But you got a guy like Harley Reid who people talk about more than any Freo player. But West Coast are rubbish. So, if you can get a healthy balance of both, I think that's where it's meant to be. So hopefully he can bring some outside eyes onto North. Maybe a player like that gets us, a Friday night game or something like that, or a bigger game and something like that. So,
and you always want your small forwards to be pests. Like that's what 100%. They are. Like, I mean, I know that if he was playing for an opposition, I'd absolutely hate him.
It's and
like,
that's what you want, though. That's what you want.
Yeah. He's stuck in on everything. He's doing this, and these absolute pests that you see around other clubs, and they annoy the crap out of you. But then when they're on your side, they're your pest.
That's right. He's my pest.
He's our pest.
That's right.
No,
don't
annoy the opposition.
Yeah, that's
annoy
right.
the opposition. Try to he'll get under their skin 1,000%. I can see that already.
Yeah.
Like Watson when he runs through packs, he lowers himself and he's already just an inch off the ground. But
I think his genetics did that for him, mate. But
his genetics help him lower. But then he goes back, kicks goals in big moments. Sure. Cody Waitman, same thing. Like just an absolute pest. And they kick goals though, and they make differences, and it'll get the fans or get the cheer squad up and going for us, no doubt. So,
no, for sure. Look, let's go on to talk about some key position depth here, because I think this is interesting. And even like you pointed out before, Ludovic would have been a good pick at that third one, even though I'm not disappointed with Hugo Mikunda at all. But we sort of wrote down here, and we're going to read out the key position players here. Do we really need another key position player on this list? I've said repeatedly for months, to be honest, I don't know. We don't need more key position players. We need to upgrade the top end of our key possession depth. And, and I don't know if you're doing that at the third pick in the draft. Yes, Larky was down there and stuff. You're really taking swings at this point, but I think we've got better key position depth than what people maybe give us credit for. Definitely what people outside give us credit for. But especially with adding Threadgold to this, and where we're hearing rumors of Whitlock being forward in training so far this year, I think it's really interesting. So let's go key defenders. And here's the depth, because our list is finalised now. Comben, Dawson, Logue, Pink, Core, and Threadgold, right? So you've got 6 key position players there. I can absolutely see all of them playing, maybe bar Core. I don't think Core, if things are going well, Core shouldn't be getting near this team. It's not a disrespectful thing to Aiden Core. I think he's just a little bit older. Thank you for your service. I think, I had mega beef with Aiden Core year 1 of the Further North podcast. Over the last 2 years, I think he really started to play an important role when we really lacked depth in these positions. But now Comben is down there, Dawson coming on, drafting Threadgold, the emergence of Toby Pink last year, it has made him surplus to requirements, even though I think he can be a good leader and veteran presence around some of these younger guys. So I still think he's got a role to play off the field for our key defenders. How do you feel about that core 6 of key defending stocks going into next season?
No, I really quite like it. I think Logue will be a bit underrated coming back. Like if he comes back fit, he hasn't had a really good run it up from pre-seasons for multiple years for us. Hopefully he stays fit throughout this pre-season. If he comes back strong, it'll be a really big bonus for us. Dawson I think Threadgold, I think he'll play a bit earlier than expected, I think as well. I think given that his talents are I think his talents are transferable to more than just he won't come in as the number 1 or number 2 stopper, but he could come in as a number 3 or a 4. and still have valuable game time, where like a Will Dawson doesn't have necessarily a 3 to 4 in him. He's always going to be a 1 to 2. So Dawson developing still, Threadgold obviously developing still, and the other three, Chum, Logan, Pink, are generally going to be they're going to start the season most likely. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Lode could come back a lot stronger, and then Pink's position could be under pressure a bit. And then Core, like I agree with you. I love having around almost as a coach, particularly when you've got these young guys developing. I think he'll give Dawson a real opportunity to learn and to teach. And same thing with a Threadgold as well. But Threadgold, it feels like it's going to be more so just. I think Threadgold, he's not anywhere near complete, obviously, as a player. He's still a fair while to develop in that. But his one-on-one skills are a lot stronger starting point than Dawson's were. So, and I think that's what Core can do really well, is leading patterns in that. He'll learn a lot of Core as well, may I add. So it'll be a good opportunity for them to learn. So I think the back line, in summary, would be really strong, or has the ability to be strong. We need Dawson to really develop and Threadgold to come through. If Lowe comes back fit, I think people will be very surprised by how strong our key defensive stocks are at the start of the year. If he comes back strong, which I think he could.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've talked about this a few times as well, and I think people are writing off Logue way too quickly. I do believe this is the season he has to do it, though.
Yeah.
He's got 12 months to be able to get a spot in that back line, and he's, I believe, 27, I think, or maybe almost 28. Like he's in his prime. He is a good player. Now, he's a good, and he had good games last year too, especially that Richmond game. I believe he was really good in. He had plenty of games last year where, like, you can see what he's doing. If there's a preseason there and he's fit going into the season, he will start. The one I'm interested in is, does Pink or Will Dawson start? And I get what you mean about Pink. I can fully see them going in that direction. But the way they've been talking about Will Dawson, Brady before the draft and free agency is more what I mean, sorry. Backing in our key defenders, but specifically mentioning Will Dawson's name, they clearly see him as that guy going forward. Is he good? Is he going to be good enough for round one? I don't know. I would like to see him start. I think you just got to put him in and get him to develop while he's at AFL level. Personally, I don't know. I think he's shown enough at AFL level that maybe VFL development won't push him forward fast enough for us to be a contributor by the middle of the season. But look, that's up for debate. I would love to see Logue, Comben, and Dawson start the season. And then if Threadgold and Pink are backing up, one young guy and one guy who we know what we're going to get from in Toby Pink, I think that is really, really solid key position defensive stocks. I'm not saying that Core wins as a premiership, but for where we are now and over the next couple of seasons, I don't mind where we're at, especially with the development of Dawson. Hopefully a preseason under Logue makes him better, and Threadgold as a really talented key position back.
No, I mean, agreed. I mean, I'd probably keep Dawson in the reserves just a bit longer till he hones his craft a bit more personally. But you look at, 3-4 years, having Threadgold, Dawson, and Chom.
Comben, yeah.
It'll be really, really, I think that's a really strong making. All of them can sort of come off and intercept. You've got the bigger body one for the 200 centimeter giants. You've got the more athletic ones for the 194, 195 centimeter forwards, which there's a lot of in the AFL at the moment. So I think that covers a lot of bases, and I'd be very happy with that mix going forward, to be honest. So I think we're in a good spot for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's go to the forward line. Not quite as much depth here, which is interesting, but I think there's enough, and I think all of these guys could play. I think there's more players that can play key position in the forward line than maybe the back line. So obvious ones, Larkey, Darling, Trembath, Whitlock, and Callum Coleman-Jones. Now, Callum Coleman-Jones is one that I know you're hot on already. You've got a bit of 2 years ago Josh CCJ fever, which is very, very exciting. Give me your spiel here on CCJ, because I believe, and I agree with you on this, there's a little bit of Griffin Logue about CCJ.
CCJ, like, obviously, he's in the last year, or he's got a 1-year contract and scored it. Given the list going out to 23, a backup ruck as him being that asset, I think there's a really high chance. Watching his VFL games when he came back before he did the calf, obviously, which comes with the Achilles, if he stays fit, I think I'd be shocked if, not shocked, I wouldn't be shocked if he's playing round one. I think there's a very strong chance of him playing round one. And I think it'll probably shock a lot of fans on the pod and a lot of fans in general if they saw that with him.
I can hear the comments going already, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's potentially, worst case scenario for him, he's obviously doesn't play all year and he gets delisted.
For sure.
But I think if he has a really strong off season, there's every chance he's playing round one. And then,
especially with the 5 interchange spots as well.
Yeah, 1,000%. Like, Darling, I don't love seeing go into that ruck. Larky, I despise seeing going into the ruck at any stage. CCJ wasn't that far away from a recall. Like, he would have been playing ahead of Teakle had it not been for that injury timing. And watching the VFL, if you've watched the VFL when he came back, he was actually looking really strong, I think, and particularly as that
kicking goals option.
Too. And kicking goals. So, like, I do think there's a lot of ground for him to potentially make there. And I think when Trembath eventually makes his, or if he comes in, I think it's more likely at the cost of a Darling than it is, or like CCJ. I think CCJ and him crossing over aren't as high as a thought pattern as people would make out.
Yeah, no, I do kind of agree. The thing that I've talked to you about a couple of times is, CCJ has a reputation of being injury prone, and Josh Goda, yes, he's injury prone, but we see him as still part of the future. And I know they're different ages and different positions. I understand that. But a calf injury is incredibly common after an Achilles. Goda and CCJ did their Achilles at the same time. I mean, CCJ came back before Goda. We didn't see Goda. We haven't seen Goda for 2 years now, right? So barely 2 years, round 3 or 1 or whatever. It was 1 because it was the opening game against GWS in the last quarter, which is crazy when the game was done. A calf injury is incredibly common to do off an Achilles. Happens in the basketball all the time and other sports. For all you other sports fans out there, you should know. I think that calf that CCJ did is just part of the recovery, because Goda did it too. And because people like Goda more, they didn't switch to, oh my God, Goda's so injury prone, we have to move on. I think people still feel like Goda can be a contributor to our future. CCJ is 26, I believe, 25, 26.
27, I think.
Is he?
But but still, like, he's in contributing age.
Yeah, and I think he can be a part of the next 2 or 3 years. Now, that being said, I'm not here telling people this guy has to be in this team.
No.
I think there's just as much chance he couldn't play a game. But I don't think we should write him off like he's going to make no impact. We can't do anything. He earned his spot back in that team. He didn't get – I know Jerry went out with the suspension from the Demons game, but he was doing fantastically well in the twos. And for all those that remember, he was getting talked about coming back, and he was an emergency multiple times before he actually got that call up. He earned his spot back in that team. He was kicking goals. He was doing great in the ruck. That calf injury so early on in that game was because of his Achilles. That's just what it was. So I agree with you. I think there's a world where he could start round 1. I think there's a world where he starts and there's no Trembath in the team, which I love Cooper. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I want him in that team. But I think there's a world where Clarkson goes, the back line's going to be Pink, Core, Combin to start, and the forward line's going to be Darling, Larky, and CCJ as that ruck forward hybrid. I think that's absolutely a possibility. And look, we'll see through preseason. If Threadgold and Cooper Trembath play round 1, I'm stoked. I love those guys, and I want those guys playing more than the guys we're talking about, because I do see them as part of the future more. But we want to be good this season as well and not also just look towards the future. And that counteracts my point against Dawson a little bit. I just think what I saw from Dawson was enough to say he can play at the AFL level. I don't know. I just think we shouldn't completely write Callum Coleman-Jones off, and not to be the guy we need and start and be one of our better players, but to be a really valuable role player on the list. He's not on big money anymore. He's on a 1-year deal. I think he could contribute. So I do completely agree with you. And Logue is in that category as well. Logue, I think, has got more to offer than CCJ. Logue still has a really high ceiling, I think. Like a decently high ceiling to be a really good key defender. I think he could be a part of our next finals team potentially if he sort of hits where his potential did lie, even though he is that 27-year-old, which, by the way, I don't even believe 30 is an age where you really tail off anymore. I think 30 is still part of your prime. So with modern sports science and medicine and everything. So, yeah, Logue and CCJ, North fans, I know a lot of you have written them off. Don't completely write them off. Not saying I'm here promoting them, so they have to start, but I think they can play an important part in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to be disappointed if neither of those are on our list next year, the year after, 2027. But that being said, I do see the ability for them to have massive upside, and I do see the ability of them to actually contribute to our side early next year.
Especially early. I think that's a perfect way to put it too, is early on, if you see them starting, don't be surprised. And I think, and we're talking, this whole conversation is about depth, right? Even if they're both the third or fourth or fifth option on the ladder for their position, it's still good depth. And I would argue that we've got better depth than some other teams out there in those positions. I mean, Essendon's key forward depth, for an example, is probably not as good as ours now after this year with Whitlock going down there, and
Well, that's the big one is Whitlock, obviously, because Whitlock, he was drafted as a defender, has been moved forward just due to his junior year was a strange one. When Jack went down, he went forward and then he kicked multiple goals in every game and had a great finish to the season as a forward, but he was still always that defender. But then he's also such a strange utility, as in his 200 centimeter skills are what need improvement more than his non-200 centimeter skills, if that makes sense. He's got the ability to pick it up. He's got really good kick of the ball for his size. He moves around the field exceptionally well. But and he can mark it out in the lead. He's got a strong leading pattern, I think. But they're the kind of things where he needs to. His gameplay reading is really strong. So if he can start improving that contested mark, which will come with size, hopefully, then you'll see him really start to tear some down.
I mean, look, you give me Dawson and Threadgold in the back line, Whitlock up forward, those young pillars to build around at each end of the ground. I'm excited, mate, because we said on the pod through the year that Dawson and Whitlock have to work out, and one of them has to be at each end of the ground. That's the only way this team has enough key possession depth and talent in those positions moving forward. Now Threadgold is in there as well. It gives us another layer of that, and it is in a position of more need as a key defender. So I like where the list is sitting at, mate. We know our midfield is there. We've got guys ready now, and we've got guys coming through who are 18, 19, 20 years old who can be really, really good. Our key position pillars are good for current players and for younger players at each end of the ground, I believe. So I think this draft has made me, hopefully you, and hopefully listeners out there a lot more comfortable with where our list is at balance-wise. It doesn't feel as midfield heavy anymore. And look, add Doverston to that too with the small forward position. So it doesn't feel as unbalanced. I think those two, Dawson and Threadgold in the back line with Archer, with Goda, with McDonald coming back, that is so much stronger. That's 5 defenders we've recruited or are getting back from injury. That's huge. And they're good players too. All of those players are good players. They're either good players now or good players for our future. There's no one there that you really write off. I know people will say that about McDonald. McDonald was really good last year till he got injured.
Yeah, he was.
So, and I think McDonald will be a good player this year for us as well. I know some fans for every club, not just North, but you get in your brain Logue and McDonald are done. It's a bit of an overreaction. Tom Powell is done, mate. No, that was a joke. Don't clip that. That's a joke. Don't hate Tom Powell. Leave me alone, Joel. Stop picking on me. People are going to hate me again. I don't hate Tom Powell. I like Tom Powell.
You like Cherry now, so we'll take that.
Okay, well, I've had enough from you. I think that's a perfect time to finish this podcast. Thank you, Joel, except for all the digs you've been taking at me all podcast, mate. Coming from the number one Tom Powell lover like myself, this is a great time for the North Melbourne.
Straight face, can you?
Come on, mate. All right, I'm winding it up. My voice is cooked. I need to go and lay down and not watch the cricket because England sucked. Australia kind of sucked, but England sucked more. And that is everyone but Travis Head, Mitchell Starc suck. So that's fine. If they're the only 2 players in the series that show up, it is what it is. But hey, Joe Root is the worst, best batter ever. That's what I've learned.
No, a good finish to that, I think, actually, yeah. Reached not 100 in Australia. Yeah. Look, one day he's bound to at some point, just statistically.
How old is Joe Root?
I'm not too sure. I think he's on the back end of his career now, though. I don't think he's not young anymore.
An old dog. Anyway, All right. Maybe we can start a cricket podcast too, Joel.
There you go. Man, you start talking, just taking the piss out of the English.
Well, hey, if you want cricket content for the off season when there's no footy to talk about, you guys let us know. Subscribe on YouTube, Put on the comments all your stuff. Let us know about your opinions on our key position depth. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think we're crazy about Logan CCJ, or do you see where we're coming from there? What do you think of Tom Powell? Do you think I don't like him, or do you think I like him? Because I like him. So don't keep spreading these rumors around.
Down below.
This will get back to Tom Powell eventually, and then he's going to hate me and never come on the pod. If you want to see me interview Tom Powell, tell him I love him. You know,
tell him Joel likes him.
Well, Joel, yeah, tell him Joel will interview, and then I'll show up instead. That'll be a fun time. Get on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. Go watch the Thread Gold interview. One of my favorites I've done. The reception to it has been fantastic, and I appreciate all the support. Joel, we will have you on sometime in the future, mate. You've been here nearly every week over draft period, which is obligatory at this point for you and your brain for the granny. But hey, buy your tickets. I'll see you at the AFLW Grand Final, Joel. And we'll get a squad down there and we'll take the kangaroo out really hard.
That's good. Take care, Josh.